Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. My name is Madhavananda Das and these are our adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. We're continuing with our series of talks we're calling Meeting in Kurukshetra, and this is number 71. And today we have a really very interesting discussion, I think, about lessons from Vraj and the practice of kind words. That's what we're subtitling this. Gora Graganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Narayanam Namaskrityam Naramschaiva Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Hudirayat Vede Ramayanesh Chaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adhavante Chamadye Chahari Sarvatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandavela Parikoribe Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Dharma Projita Kaitavo Chaparamo Nimatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamata Vastu Shivadam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite Kimva Parayishvara Sadyo Hridyavarudate Takatibishu Shubhistakshanat Nigamako Pataro Galitam Phalam Sukamukha Davita Javasam Yutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamhalayam Mohoroho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka Anayato Pasamam Sakshat Bhakti Yogam Hokshaje Lokasya Janito Vidvams Chakre Satvata Samhitam Yasham Vaishuyamanayam Krishne Padama Purushe Bhakti Rutpadyate Pumsha Shokamoha Bhayapaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I want to welcome everyone this morning. My name is Madhavananda Das. We're here in Jagannath Puri with our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. And I want to welcome Krishna Balaram Prabhu, our friend, and Vrinda Sundari, and other devotees who are watching. Invite anybody who, at the end of this, if you have any reflections, comments, questions, or anything, it's nice to have some interactive persons here. So we're speaking today on a topic we're calling Lessons from Vraj in the Practice of Kind Words. And it's a continuation of our discussion called Meeting in Kurukshetra, and a subsection of the Brahma Ragit, which will continue for a number of more sessions. And we've been speaking from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Campu. And Srila Jiva Goswami was speaking about the Kalahantarita heroine. There was a particular heroine who chastises Krishna, becomes very angry with Krishna, and sends him away. And then when Krishna goes away, she becomes very, very unhappy and sad due to dismissing him. And so this happened with Srimati Radharani. Uddhava came, and Srimati Radharani didn't... Sorry? Okay, I can everybody hear us okay? I hope so. Somebody just told me that the sound is really low. I'm trying to speak as loud as we can. Hare Krishna. I got distracted for a moment. Uddhava came, and at the same time a bumblebee came. And Srimati Radharani ignored Uddhava, but she began speaking to the bumblebee as if the bumblebee were Krishna. And at one point, the bumblebee left, because that's what bumblebees do. They go here and there. And at that time, Srimati Radharani began to lament. And she spoke some very beautiful words, which we've been focusing on in the last couple sessions. I'd like to look back a little bit at it. She said, Ya saha kalite sa saka. Yasama dukkha priya sapuna apiduke sahabasi ya priya sakatam satu brajati. She speaks of three different types of friends. And one is a saka. And the saka is someone kailati saka, who plays with you. But yasama dukkha priya, someone who takes on your suffering. That's a priya. That's someone very dear. And api dukkha sahabasi, someone who comes and stays with you during your time of suffering, that person is a priya saka, is a very dear friend. And she says to this bumblebee, she starts speaking very sweetly to the bumblebee, that friendship is a real wealth. And Radharani, then she begins in the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, the Brahma Ragit, she says, Manani yosi me ninga. My dear bumblebee, I should honor you. I should speak very sweet words to you. So sometimes we think that Srimati Radharani, she's speaking very harshly to Krishna. She does. But that kind of harshness is actually something which gives pleasure to Krishna. And it's something which is very difficult to understand. But we should look at it and understand the nature of Srimati Radharani's talks with Krishna, and not try to imitate that. We should speak very, very sweetly in general. Radharani's words to Krishna, they're very pleasing to Krishna, her words of chastisement. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in Adi Lila chapter 4, he speaks something about the harsh words of the gopis to Krishna. And he says there, I'm going to go ahead and sing this. Priya jare mana kori koraye vatsana Veda stuti hoite hare se moraman Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Priya means the beloved, and Jati means if. Priya Jati man, man kori. If the beloved becomes man, they become sulky. And they have some sulky anger. Actually, this word sulkiness is about the best word I've found in English to translate man into. They start doing this man. And they're bhartsana. Bhartsana means to rebuke. They're chastising him. Veda stuti hoite hare se moraman. Krishna accepts that. He appreciates that more than the reverential prayers of the Vedas. Prabhupada writes in a purport to this verse, he says, the informal language used between the lover and the beloved is indicative of pure affection. When devotees worship their beloved as a most venerable object, spontaneous loving sentiments are observed to be lacking. A neophyte devotee who follows the Vedic instructions that regulate those who lack pure love of Godhead may superficially seem more exalted than a devotee in spontaneous love of Godhead. But in fact, such spontaneous pure love is far superior to regulated devotional service. Such pure love of Godhead is always glorious in all respects, more so than reverential devotional service rendered by a less affectionate devotee. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had one associate in Navadvip, what's his name? Vamsidas Babaji. And he told the devotees, his disciples, that Vamsidas Babaji was a very exalted Vaishnava. And so the devotees, they thought, oh, we should go and visit him. And so they went to see him, and they brought some fruit or something, which is normal when you go to see a sadhu, you bring some gift. And Vamsidas Babaji, when he saw that, he became very angry and started chastising. Krishna, why are you sending things to me? I don't need these things. Because he's a very spontaneous devotee. And those devotees, they couldn't understand what Vamsidas Babaji was saying. And they became hurt and offended. Why did he's becoming angry with me? What is this? And so they went back to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and they said, you know, you were saying this guy is a really advanced devotee. And we went to see him and he started yelling at us and he was criticizing Krishna. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, better you don't go there again. You should stay away. So Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport that a neophyte devotee who follows the Vedic instructions that regulate those who lack pure love of God may superficially seem more exalted than a devotee in spontaneous love of God. But in fact, the spontaneous pure love is far superior to regulated devotional service. So this is the nature of Srimati Radharani, that sometimes she speaks in a harsh way. But the Bhagavatam says, Paroksha Vada Rishaya Paroksha Mama Cha Priyam. That Krishna says this to Uddhava in 11th canto. That this Paroksha Vada means that you're saying one thing but you mean another thing. And Srimati Radharani's chastisement of Krishna is actually a great manifestation of her love for Krishna. Prabhupada said in one lecture on Nectar Devotion in Bombay in 10th of January 1973 that Krishna wants to be controlled by Yashoda Mai. Krishna wants to be defeated by his friends. Krishna wants to be refused Radharani's darshan. When Radharani is angry, she's refused, Prabhupada says. She's ordered the Sakhis, don't allow Krishna to come here. Then Krishna starts flattering her. Oh, kindly let me go. No, sir, you cannot go. And Krishna gets so much pleasure from that. So we should understand this in a deep way. Radharani's chastising words to Krishna that we find in this Brahma Gita, they're actually symptoms of great ecstasy, and they're a manifestation of Radharani's love for Krishna. But in general, we understand the principle of Braj is sweet speaking. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he quotes a verse in the Mahabharata, Pateva putam karuno, no dvejayati yo janam, visudasya rishikeshas turnam tasya prasidati. That when someone doesn't agitate, no dvejayati yo janam, doesn't agitate other living entities, rather they act like a piteva putam, they act like a kind-hearted father to them, then Krishna becomes quickly satisfied with such a person. Again in the Mahabharata, in the Udyoga Parva, Vidura, when he was giving advice, is a section of the Mahabharata called the Vidura Gita, very beautiful section when he's speaking advice to Dhritarashtra just before the war takes place. He goes there and tries to stop everything, and he speaks so much beautiful words of wisdom to him. And one of the things that he says is, Abhyavahati kalyanam vividam vak subhashita saiva dubhasita rajan anarpayo papadyate. That when you speak words that are sweet, those sweet words bring lots of blessings. We may not understand someone else's heart. We may become angry with someone, may want to chastise them. But if we speak in a harsh way, they may be hurt. We may misunderstand what they're doing. And he says the same words, if we speak in a harsh way, they generate evil. They cause all kinds of problems. But if we speak in a very sweet way, those sweet words, they bring blessings. And as we spoke in our last session, this is the nature of saintly persons. They speak sweetly because they don't consider themselves to be the judge of others. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is in his Sarta Darshani commentary in the Bhagavatam 4.4.12. He's given a very beautiful discussion about 4 types of saintly persons and 4 types of nonsense persons. There's the Mahat, the Mahatara, the Mahatama, and the Ati Mahatam. 4 types of good persons. There's the Asadu, the Asadutara, the Asadutam, and the Atyasadutam. 4 types of good persons and 4 types of bad persons. The Mahat, he's a great person. And the Mahat, Vishwanath says, he has the ability to see good in everyone. At the same time, the Mahat also sees some bad things in people. They also see some faults. But the Mahat, he thinks that, if we chastise this person, then it'll help this person. And the Mahat, they think that they may have some faults, but those faults will go away. And the Mahat never rejects or condemns. He doesn't do ninda, he doesn't criticize somebody, but he just thinks, how can we benefit them? The Mahatara is Mahat Uttara. He's a greater person. He also sees good and bad, but he focuses on the good, and he praises that. He doesn't see the bad qualities. He sees some bad qualities, but he thinks that, this person's a materialistic person, but he also takes care of guests, and he's actually a great personality. But then there's a Mahatama. He's a Mahat Uttam. He's especially a great person. And he sees whatever good qualities other people has, and he magnifies them. And Vishwanath gives a beautiful example. He says that during the winter, some rascal comes and steals a cloth, a blanket, from the Mahatam. And the Mahatam thinks to himself, this person stole my cloth because he's cold. And although he's a great person, he has a weapon in his hand, he has a knife, but he didn't attack me because he's merciful, he has good qualities. That's the Mahatam. And then there's the Ati Mahatam, the extremely great person. They see good qualities in people even when there's no good qualities. And their attitude is that there's no bad people in this world, everyone is good. So then Vishwanath goes on to speak about the 4 types of asadhus, wicked or bad people, who are characterized according to their propensity for fault finding. Now again, this is the nature of someone who takes it upon themselves to be the judge of others. And if someone is a manager, if someone's a guru, if someone's a parent, they have an obligation to find fault with the devotees in the temple, with their disciples, with their children. But they have the strength to do that only inasmuch as people accept them as an authority. And people will accept them as authority, as I'd like to speak a little something from Prabhupada about his instructions for dealing with the children. They accept you inasmuch as you have love for them. But an asadhu is a wicked person. The asadhu also, like the Mahat, the asadhu also sees good people in people, good qualities in persons. But the asadhu presumes that eventually those good qualities are going to become spoiled and taken away by some fault, because they focus more on the faults. Asadhus are not gentle people. Then there's the asadutara. The asadutara, he's a very wicked person. He or she only sees faults in other people, and they overlook whatever good qualities they have. If they see a sannyasi who's traveling and preaching, and they say, oh, this sannyasi, did you see they're giving him so much nice pizza and pasta and this and that? The only reason he's taken sannyas is so that he can eat. He's a lusty fellow. But worse than this asadutara is the asad uttam. He's the uttam, the topmost of the asadhu. And this asad uttam, he takes small faults and he magnifies them. He doesn't see anything good in anybody. He just criticizes and condemns everybody. If he sees a sannyasi, he thinks he's a bogus rascal, that he gave up the forest and now he's living in some house of a married person. His only motivation is he's there because he wants to steal the money of that household. That's what the asaduttam says. But then there's one person even worse than the asaduttam. He's the atyasaduttam. He's an extremely wicked person. And he has 20/20 vision. All that he sees is faults in everyone, even when there's no fault. He thinks that everybody is bad in this whole world. So their dealings in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami quotes a verse from the Vishnu Yamala, which describes 18 different faults in a conditioned soul. Sometimes we give some class about this. These 18 different faults, 16 of them are found in Krishna. And paradoxically, it's those faults that make Krishna greater than God, which make him greater than Vishnu. And that's a whole nother subject matter. But amongst those different faults, the fourth is ruksha rasata. This is one of the qualities of a conditioned soul which Krishna doesn't have. Ruksha rasata means rough, cruel, exploitive dealings. And we don't find these in Braj. Radharani's harsh words to the bumblebee are not a manifestation of ruksha rasata. They're a manifestation of her ecstatic love for Krishna. Prabhupada, I'd like to share with you a couple letters that Prabhupada wrote. They're a little bit long, but they're very, very deep. These are two letters that Prabhupada wrote to some of the Gurukula teachers. And Prabhupada speaks about how to deal with the children. And sometimes devotees have a misunderstanding about that, especially during the 70s and early 80s. They thought that we should chastise the children, we should be very harsh on them. Sometimes we think in the same way with devotees, that I should chastise them, I should speak up and speak the truth, Prabhu. But what to speak with other devotees, what about the children? So this is a letter that Prabhupada wrote to Bhanatanya on the 18th of November 1972. And Prabhupada said, children should not be beaten at all. That I've told. They should simply be shown the stick strongly. Because sometimes children, they need to have, some discipline has to be there. Prabhupada says, so you just show them the stick. So if one cannot manage in that way, if you can't do that, then he's not fit to be a teacher. If a child is trained properly in Krishna consciousness, he will never go away. Wow. What a statement. In 1972, Prabhupada said, if a child is trained properly in Krishna consciousness, he'll never go away. What does that mean? It means he must have two things, love and education. So if there's beating of the child, that will be difficult for him to accept in a loving spirit. And when he's old enough, he may want to go away. That is the danger. Oh my gosh, these are very prophetic words from Srila Prabhupada, and that's what happened with most of our Gurukul children. Prabhupada said, so why these things are going on? Marching, making the children march, making the children chant japa, giving them insufficient milk, too much strict enforcement of time schedules, hitting the small children. Why are these things being imposed? Why are they inventing these new things like marching and doing japa like the military? Prabhupada said, what can I do from such a distant place? The children should run and play when they're small, not be forced to chant japa. That's not the way. So I've given you the guiding principles. So many devotees I've known over the years, they think the children should be forced to chant japa. Prabhupada says, why are you introducing this? They should not be forced to chant japa. He said, this is not our Vaishnava standard. And then in a letter to Rupa Vilas in 1972 also, Prabhupada said that it's very good news that the children are making good progress. If we train them properly, then they'll come to the highest standard of a Vaishnava devotee. And what is that training? It's not that we force them. Rather, he said that their willingness to obey is only possible if there's love. Forcing will not make them agree. But if there's love, then they'll gladly do it. He said that is bhakti. That is Krishna consciousness. If we train the children by developing, encouraging their propensity to love Krishna, then we shall be successful in educating them to the highest standard. Then they shall always very happily agree to whatever you ask them. Prabhupada said then, I've heard there's been some beating with sticks on the children. That should not happen. You may show the stick and threaten, but better art is somehow or other, even by tricking them, to avoid force and induce them to obey out of a loving spirit. Again, in a talk Prabhupada gave with some senior persons, some senior politicians in Mauritius in 1976, Prabhupada said that this Vedic society is based on the principle of love between husband and wife, father and son, the king and the citizens, and so on. Civilization must be founded on love, not law. By law, you cannot make a person love you. First, he must love you. Then he will gladly follow your law. So we should understand these principles. These are the principles of Braj speech. Krishna in the Gita says, Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyabhayasana chaiva vanmayam tapa uchadi. These are austerities of speech. And the first is that when we speak anudvega vakyam, we should speak things which are not agitating to others. Even it may be true. And Adi Shankaracharya in his Advaita Bhashya on this verse, he says a very interesting thing. There's 4 different principles of speech given in this verse. The first is anudvega vakyam, anudvega karam, that you don't speak anything agitating. The second is it should be satya, it should be truthful. The third is it should be priya, it should be dear. And the fourth is it should be beneficial. And Adi Shankar in his commentary, Prabhupada calls Shankara our Acharya, he says that all 4 of these have to be there in a united way. If there's only 1, 2, or 3, and 1 or more are missing, then that's not proper speech. All 4 should be there. You may say something true, that's nice. But if it's agitating to someone, then you're not following this austerity of speech. If it's not beneficial for someone, then you're not following this austerity of speech. And swadhyabhyasanam, swadhyaya, he said, also has to be there, Vedic study. So we should speak in a sweet way. This is the nature of Krishna, this is the nature of Krishna's devotees, that they have very, very nice dealings. This is the nature of Braj, that there's no harsh words. And I'd like to look back a little bit and give a few examples in some of our past discussions that we had on this topic of meeting in Kurukshetra. We spoke about after Krishna returned, or Krishna stayed, after Nanda Maharaj returned to Vrindavan and Krishna stayed in Mathura, there was some problem there. Because the boys, they were staying with Vasudeva and Devaki, but they didn't know how to relate to them. And before I speak about this point, it's very interesting to note what happened when Krishna came to Mathura. How did he meet with Vasudeva and Devaki? Nanda Maharaj took the boys, according to Jiva Goswami and Gopal Campu. Nanda Maharaj, who loves Krishna and Balaram more than his own body, he took Krishna and Balaram to the house of Vasudeva and he made them sit down. He told them, you should respect them. And he told them, you should follow them, you should follow their words. So sweetly was Nanda Maharaj dealing with them. He wasn't thinking, oh, they're going to try to take Krishna away. There's going to be some competition and love. But he was speaking in such a very nice way. So similarly, after Nanda Maharaj returned to Vrindavan, at that time Krishna and Balaram were staying there, and sometimes they were hearing news from Vrindavan. And they were getting some letters and different things. But the boys, they didn't know how to relate to Devaki as a mother. So Vasudeva and Devaki, they decided to send a message to Braj requesting Rohini to come. And this is why Rohini came to Mathura and later went to Dwarka, why she left Vrindavan. So he sent a message there, and in the message they praised the qualities of Rohini, and they said that you please come here. And Rohini at that time, she was thinking to herself, Jiva Goswami says, Agya Patyur. She's thinking that the Agya Pati, the order of my husband, I can't give it up. And at the same time, she's thinking that I really want to see Krishna and Balaram. But how can I leave? How can I leave Vrindavan? And why was she thinking this? I mean, you would think that her biggest desire would be to see Krishna and Balaram. But she was thinking, how can I give up Yashoda? Because Yashoda right now is in such a situation. She needs support. We spoke about these 3 types of friends. And that friend who sees your distress and shares it with you, that's Priya. But that friend who, when he sees your distress, comes and stays with you. That's the topmost friend. And this was Rohini. How can I leave? She's thinking higher than serving Krishna and Balaram is to serve Yashoda. This is the nature of a devotee. This is the nature of Braj. And she said, how can I give her up? And seeing the mood of Rohini, at that time Yashoda told her, she said that don't think there's any difference between you and I. Tu bhyamayam chamanye vidar, that the Creator, He's divided one body into two, but we have one heir, and that's you and I. Although we have two bodies, you and I are one. And so we shouldn't distinguish between you and I. So you should go. It's very good if you go. You'll get to see Krishna and Balaram. And by you going and seeing Krishna and Balaram, it'll give some happiness to me. There's no question of envy. This is the nature of Braj dealings. Yashoda spoke in such a very, very sweet way. And so the astrologers came and they figured some good time for Rohini to go. And then they filled up all kinds of carts with all kinds of gifts and things to take to Krishna and Balaram, especially some gobar. Gobar is one of the most valuable products in Vrindavan because they cook over that. And Krishna likes so much to eat those foodstuffs that are cooked over the gobar, the cows of Braj. And they filled up those carts, and Rohini got on the cart, and then all the residents of Vrindavan, they started following Rohini to a distance. This is our system I've seen with high-class people. You go to visit them when they're home, and when you finish talking with them, they don't just say, okay, goodbye, we'll see you later, but they follow you, they walk with you to the door, or sometimes they walk with you down the street. And this is the nature of Braj. So, as they were going, then Mother Yashoda, she sent so many nice favorite foods of Krishna and Balaram and some nice clothes for them and things. And then she said, hey, Rohini, you please give this message to Devaki. And what was Yashoda's message to Devaki? Here's this lady who's taken her boy and is trying to claim that Krishna belongs to her. But what was Yashoda's message to her? She said, Avakayor abhidaya loke sambhavita jata sampraptisa prakatabu devaki putre natata yad bedaha. Beda means a difference. She said that, oh Devaki, everybody understands that you and I are non-different. And that non-difference is manifested in Krishna. So there's no problem if we both say, he's my son. This is the nature of Braj dealings. They're so very, very sweet. This is Priyam Vada. Priyam Vada means, Rupa Goswami defines Priyam Vada as one of the qualities of Krishna. And in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the second division, he says, he defines that Janikrita Paradhepi Sanfavadi Priyam Vada. That to speak Priyam Vada means to speak in a pleasing way even to someone who's an aparadi, even someone who's offended you. This is Braj speech. And Rupa Goswami gives a very wonderful example that when Krishna was speaking to Kaliya, this black snake who had killed all the cowherd boys and all the cows and was poisoning the Jamuna river and causing so much terrible disturbance in Braj, Krishna danced on his head, and that's a long story. And then Krishna told him, hey, chalo, you have to go. But at that time, when Krishna told him to leave, Krishna apologized to him. And Rupa Goswami describes the very sweet words that Krishna spoke to that snake demon. Kritave lakepi nakundalindra tvaya videha mayidosha drishtihi pravashyamanosu surarchitanam param hitayadya gavam kulasya. He addressed him as the king of the snakes. He said, my dear king of the snakes, although I've caused you some pain in the heart, please don't be offended by me. I had to do this because the cows, they're worthy of worship by the demigods, and you're causing trouble to the cows. So please forgive me, but you have to leave. You have to go somewhere else. This is Krishna's words to Kaliya, to this great demon. This is Priyam Vada. This is the speech of the residents of Vrindavan. This is Srila Prabhupada's instruction to the devotees how to deal with the children in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes the children, they're acting like a badmas. Badmas in Odia Bengali means rascal. They're acting in a very bad way. And you have to chastise them, you have to do something. But Prabhupada said you just show them the stick. You don't actually hit them. And rather than speaking to them in such a harsh way, a better thing is if you can show them so much love and affection that they'll naturally want to follow your rules. Because rules have to be there, especially for children. Don't go out on the street. Why not? And you can tell them, well, you may be hit by a car or this or that. But if you just only have rules, they may not follow. But if the people understand, they're doing this out of love for me. My mother's telling me this, my father's telling me this because they love me so much. Then the child will definitely want to follow that order. And this is the nature of a devotee. The devotees are tolerant. In the Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami describes the nature of Maharaj Parikshit. Although he was cursed by Shringi, he just accepted it. Yes, this is Krishna's arrangement. And Shringi, he's a rishi, he's a great personality. And he gives a beautiful verse, one of Narendra Maharaj's favorite verses. He told us once that he memorized this verse because meditating on this verse helped him to survive in ISKCON. Because there were many people who spoke in a very harsh way sometimes, even to such a gentle, sweet person as Narendra Maharaj. If you have the good fortune of knowing him, he's such a gentle, loving person. But even sometimes some devotees spoke in a very harsh way to him. We had this Ruksha Rashata. These are very harsh dealings because this is our nature. This is one of the 18 faults of the conditioned soul, and it's natural. They also come sometimes in our movement. And sometimes we've beaten the children. We've spoken in a very harsh way to the children. And Prabhupada predicted. He said, if we do this to the children, they'll leave. And what happened? So most of the children, they ended up leaving. But those children who were dealt with great love and affection, they stayed. So anyway, in the Bhagavatam, it said, Tiraskrita vipralabdha kshapta shipta hatapi nashyata pratikuravanti tad bhakta prabhavopihi. Tad bhakta prabhavopihi. This is the prabhava, or the prabhava means the power. This is the shakti of a devotee. That tiraskrita, even though you say bad things about them, vipralabdha, you cheat them. You cheat the devotee. Sapta, you curse them. Kshipta, you neglect them. You don't feed them. You don't take care of them. Even hata, you try to kill them. But the devotee's power is nashita pratikurvanti. Pratikurvanti means to reciprocate. They don't pick up a stick to fight back. They just tolerate that thing. That's the nature of a devotee. This is the nature of Srimati Radharani. She's speaking harshly to the bumblebee. But that harshness is a manifestation of her ecstasy, and it's something which brings pleasure to Krishna. Ultimately, in the mood of Srimati Radharani here in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed these 8 verses known as Shikshastakam. This is in the last chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the last verse of Shikshastakam, Srimati Radharani, expressing the mood of Radharani, Mahaprabhu says, Asli seva padaratam panastu mam, adarshanam mahatam karotu va, yata tata va vidata lampato mat prananatas sa eva napraha. She says that mat prananatas sa eva napraha. Mat prananata, the Lord of my heart, is Krishna, not sa eva napraha, no one else. Even if Aslisa, he embraced me, or even Padam Panastu, he tramples me with his feet. I'm falling down in front of him, but he just walks on me. Even a darshanat, he doesn't give me darshan. Even Mama Hatam, he breaks my heart. Even he becomes a lampata and he goes with other women. Still he's free to do all these things. Because mat prananatas tusa eva napraha. He is the Lord of my life and no one else. This is the mood of Srimati Radharani. This is the mood of Vrindavan. This is the mood of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. They had so much love and affection, even for Vasudeva and Devaki. Jiva Goswami, in his Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, in the 43rd chapter, the 10th canto, he comments that it was because of Nanda Maharaj's association that Vasudeva and Devaki got Krishna Prem, that they got pure love. Because their love was mixed with some Aishvarya, but because of association with Nanda Maharaj, they came to a higher platform. Nanda Maharaj, he later wrote a letter to Vasudeva from Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami describes in Gopal Campu. And in that letter, Nanda Maharaj said, Saptama, putarpanam anunasan mayi bhina distita yate, tad ayam chastama putashat tavatad imo samam palyo. He says that when he didn't try to argue. Rupa Goswami argues. He says that Krishna is actually the son of Mother Yashoda, and he gives strong evidence. One of the evidences from the Bhagavatam, that they cut the umbilical cord from the baby to the mother. That's a very strong evidence that Krishna is actually the son of Yashoda. And according to the Harivamsa Purana, Krishna made his Avirbhava, his appearance, in the prison of Kamsa. And that Avirbhava, that's full of opulence. But that Avirbhava of the Lord was actually his Vasudeva expansion. It wasn't Swayam Rup Govinda Krishna, Nanda Nandan Krishna, who appeared from the womb of Mother Yashoda. But later, Nanda Maharaj, he wrote a letter to Vasudeva. And he could have argued, he could have said, I was there when we cut the umbilical cord. But he thought and he understood that this is not Priyam Vada. This is not the way Brijbasis speak. He could have defeated Vasudeva in so many ways. Krishna loves us more than you. Krishna was born from me, Nanda Yashoda, I was there. But he wrote this letter. And he says, Saptama Put Arpana. Putra means a child. Arpana means to give. When you gave me, Saptama means the seventh. When you gave me that seventh child, at that time, Anu Nasan Mai Bina Dristita. Dristita means to see. Bina means difference. You didn't see any difference between us. So now let this eighth child also be yours. Tad ayam chastama putra. Ashtama means eight. This Ashtama putra, this eighth child, let him be yours. You should care for him also. This is Braj speech. And this is what we learned from Srimati Radharani. That Radharani is speaking in such a sweet way to this bumblebee. It's a bumblebee. Why should you speak so sweetly to a bumblebee? What is the necessity? But Srimati Radharani, she's seeing that bumblebee is Krishna's representative. And she speaks in a very, very sweet way to him. So I want to stop there. I want to thank everybody who's been taking part. And some of the devotees made some comments. If anybody has any reflections or comments, this is a good time for it now. We can have a few minutes. Let's go over them. Let's see here. Brajabanita says, when someone experiences pain and can say harsh words from me, it's much dearer than so-called sweet words of some tricky person. Well, that's the nature of a Vaishnava. They appreciate the harsh words of another Vaishnava, and they take them as a blessing. And they appreciate them more than the false words of a duplicitous person. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. But when we speak, we should speak sweet words to someone. We should speak Priyam Vada. That's the nature of Vrindavan. Krishna taught us this when he spoke to Kaliya. And let's see. Somehow the comments are not all showing now. Nitai Gaur Prabhu is described. He says, how to generate sweet words in my mind to keep the first principle of Dharma, truthfulness, and this very important principle of sweet words. Are there any sadhana for gaining this important quality? Well, one thing that we can do is we can always try to see good in everyone. We should be a sadhu, someone, a mahat. A mahat, as Vishwanath said, is someone, they may see some bad and some good. At least we should come to that platform of being a mahat. We may see some bad things in somebody, but we should also see good in them. And if we focus more on the good things, then we can speak about those good things from our heart, and not in the way Brajabanita says, where someone just tries to flatter you and they say something false just to try to get some money out of you or try to control you in some way. But it's genuine. You really appreciate that person. You may think the guy is really a rascal, but you know how to take care of cows really good. You're really good with that. Find some good quality in the person and speak about that quality. So I want to thank Leela Avatar Mataji also for taking part today. And Nitai Gaur Prabhu and Janardhan, Hare Krishna. Nice to see everybody here. I thought I saw some comment from Brinda Sundari. Also, Ujjwala Rasiga, she's commented. I wonder if an impersonalist would ever understand the position of Vamsidas Babaji. I don't think so. It would be very difficult for them to understand. Although sometimes even amongst the impersonalists there are also sadhus, and some of them also have some kind of ecstatic symptoms. And they also become mad. That's a whole subject matter. Huh? Let's see here. I think Brajabanita says that sweet words are not true or flattering. This can agitate also. Yes. If you say something and you don't really mean it, that's very, very agitating. It's terrible. Huh? We should be careful and not speak like that. Huh? Let's see here. Hare Krishna, Francisco, greetings from Chile. Our greetings back to you. Ashwin Prabhu is here. Nice to see you, Prabhuji. Huh? Krishna Balaram's watching. Thank you, Brinda Sundari. And Natalia's there too. Nice to see you. Hare Krishna. Okay, I think that's all the comments that we've gotten. Let's flip through again. If anybody else has any reflections or comments, they're very nice. I appreciate very much. Okay. Brenda Sundari comments. I know you made some comments. I was trying to find it. It didn't show up on my... Here it is. 2 comments. She says, the type of speech where someone speaks one thing but means another, it seems can only happen in close relationships where people know someone's mind without using words. It only works there. Paroksha-vad. Or somebody's very subtle. Sometimes they may not be so close to you, but you can say something and they can understand if they're a reflective person. Oh, they're speaking like this, but actually maybe they mean something else. And that's a very high-class person. Of course, it also can be symptomatic of a low-class person, where you're speaking in a false way just to try to control someone. So it depends on our motivation. Rani Prabhu says, a heartful explanation about a world of hope that inspires me to try the best and tolerate everything. Thank you very much for your love and care. Well, thank you, Prabhuji. Brinda Sundari, she says, can seeing the good in others be something that we practice actively? It has to be. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making this point in his purport. If we want to become devotees, we have to come to the platform of Mahat. Brinda Sundari, you're taking care of your children. If all that you see is bad qualities in the children, and the faults, the bad things they've done, those children will feel hurt. They'll never grow up. You have to see good things in them too. Right? And therefore the Mahat sees both good and bad, but the Mahatara, an even greater person, they focus on the good things. We should at least come to that platform. We try to focus on the good things and help people in that way. Krishna Kun just showed up and she has something to share, I think. Can I give you this microphone? You don't have to put it.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My humble pranams to everybody. I was just thinking about this question, how can I make sweet words appear in my mind? And my own conclusion would be is that we have to purify our hearts, otherwise they will never appear. And the reason Srimati Radharani is able to speak this way, because her heart is the most pristine and the most loving in the creation. She is the personification of that love for Krishna, and that's why she can speak in the highest, sweetest way. So this was my thought about this. And I am so grateful that you spoke about children. Vrinda Sundari, if you have Gurukuli friends, please. I mean, I'm genuinely hoping that some of those children who are in their 40s now or something will hear this katha, because we really made some big mistakes with them. And I really feel that this really addressed their need. Too late, too small, but still it addressed their need. And the other thing I really marked from the Katha this morning was Rohini, how she really didn't want to leave Yashoda, and how service to such a special devotee as Mother Yashoda in her heart and mind was definitely higher than seeing Krishna, even if that seeing Krishna would be her service to Krishna and instructing Krishna how to behave with Devaki, etc. So thank you very much for these points. There were some other gems, but...
Thank you. Thank you so much. Natalia has asked a question here. She says, were there any cases where sweet words and singing good qualities were healing and effective to change the mood of an operati like a Ridvik follower? Well, maybe I shouldn't say this in public, but I had an experience on Facebook some years ago where one very strong Ridvik, actually it's happened to me a couple times with them, where they were saying some harsh things. And first of all, I told them, please don't criticize people or I'll have to delete what you say. But I can understand, and I was sympathetic with them. I understand you're saying this thing because you have some concern about Prabhupada's mission and you want to help it. And I was seeing good things in them and speaking like this. And this one particular person who said the most terrible things about everybody, he in public he wrote, he said, Madhavananda, you're a saint, you're a sadhu. And I think it's probably the only good thing he's ever said about anybody. It's difficult to deal with them. There's a few other. Jolokia has commented. In the Song of the Bumblebee, I remember Radharani chastising the bumblebee. She said to the bumblebee, you're acting like a drunk person because you came to see Krishna. Could you mention something about this? Yes, we spoke, we have a whole session about that previously. You can look in some of our back classes. Radharani, she saw the bumblebee and she said, you're a drunkard, and that's very good because you're serving a drunkard. And I see on your mustache, there's some kumkum, and that kumkum came because you were going to the flower garland on Krishna, and the Krishna's flower garland had the kumkum from the breasts of some other ladies, and you're drinking that kumkum and you've become intoxicated. You're a faulty messenger from a faulty master. She speaks like that. Krishna Balaram Prabhu says, would like to ask, please, do every Madhyam Adhikari, the only way to become an Uttam when we change our ass-like mentality to swan-like mentality. Yes, that's so we have to do that. We have to give up that mentality. We have to stop thinking of ourselves as the controller, as the reformer of everybody else. We can be the self-appointed reformer. But what value is that? And just like amongst children, sometimes someone appoints himself to chastise someone else. You know, I'm 6 months older than you, and therefore I'm senior to you, and I should chastise you and do this. But the other children don't accept that. They accept love, not law. And so we should know that. It's a very important principle. Okay, I think I've gotten everybody's comments here. It's a little hard the way they're coming up in the flow here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I'm going to paste in these comments from Srila Prabhupada about the children. And please share these. I'll do this both in our little WhatsApp group and in Facebook both. So thank you all very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha. Kripa Sindhu.